More than 40,000 people are killed. But the British still refuse to give in. The Luftwaffe is starting to suffer heavy losses. Bomber pilot Peter Stahl.
16th of October. Our losses amount to 4 bombers and their crews. This is a heavy blow. And tomorrow, the official communiqué will state that our brave air crews have inflicted devastating damage on vital targets. And our own losses were only minimal. Our crews are reaching the limits of their nerves.
By May 1941, Hitler has lost the battle for Britain. For the first time, he has met his match.
I am not a man to abandon a fight once begun. I've proved this in my life, and I will prove this to Churchill.
In Hitler's new eastern provinces, victory has brought a brutal new regime.
The Poles have a thin Germanic layer. Below that is foul material, the Jews. The most disgusting thing imaginable. If Poland had lasted any longer, everything would be lice-ridden. A clear, masterful hand is now needed here.
Hitler requires all Jews to be marked with a special armband. They are rounded up and forced to live in ghettos. The largest ghetto is in Poland's old capital, Warsaw. "400,000 Jews are confined within its walls. 17-year-old Mary Berg.
The ghetto is becoming more and more crowded. There is a constant stream of new refugees. People are ragged and barefoot, with the tragic eyes of those who are starving. Starvation alone is killing 40 to 50 people each day. I saw a little girl crying. She looked at me with her blue eyes and said, "I'm hungry." Why does no one come to our aid? How long are we going to be kept here?
Joseph Goebbels.
The Führer prophesied that if the Jews brought about another world war, they would experience annihilation. The world war is here. The extermination of the Jews is the necessary consequence.
By the end of 1942, almost 300,000 men, women and children have been taken from the Warsaw Ghetto to the death camp at Treblinka. Hitler's final solution has begun. After his defeat at the hands of the RAF, Hitler has abandoned his plans for an invasion of Britain. He prepares orders for a new war, this time against his ally, the Soviet Union. Chief of Staff, General Halder.
The Führer says that if we can defeat Russia, Britain's last hope will be gone. He believes a campaign against the Soviet Union will be child's play.
Some of Hitler's generals are beginning to doubt his leadership. Deputy Chief of Operations, General Weilemont.
This means that we are bringing on ourselves a war on two fronts that up to now we have been lucky to avoid. What we need is someone to oppose the Führer, but there is no one.
A war to destroy communism has been Hitler's dream for the last 20 years.
Communism is an enormous danger for our future. We must forget any idea of comradeship between soldiers. This will be a war of annihilation.
Dawn, June the 22nd, 1941. More than 3 million German soldiers crossed the border into the Soviet Union. Hitler's treaty with Stalin is over. Operation Barbarossa has begun. Karl Fuchs is a gunner in the 7th Panzer Division.
War isn't half as bad as it sounds. The Russians are fleeing everywhere. Yesterday, I shot up a Russian tank. If I get another one, I'll get my first battle stripes. We're going to show those Bolshevik pigs who is who around here. I wish you could see me now, all tanned by the sun. We all believe in an early victory.
An officer in the 105th Police Battalion writes home.
Dear Hannah, the number of prisoners we take increases day by day. Our battalion has to take care of them. We shoot them there and then. When you know that these men have killed German soldiers, it is not such a difficult job to shoot them. Please don't read this to our son.
By the war's end, more than 3 million Soviet prisoners of war will have been killed. August the 26th, 1941. Hitler visits the Eastern Front. With the Red Army in full retreat and large parts of the Soviet heartland in his grasp, his plans for an Eastern Empire are beginning to take shape.
What India is for Britain, Russia will be for us. If only I could make the German people understand what this space means for our future. Let's learn from the British. It is just a matter of dividing up a giant cake, so that first we rule it, then administer it, and finally exploit it.
But Hitler and his generals failed to defeat the Red Army before the start of the severe Russian winter. They are forced to call a halt to Operation Barbarossa. Then, on December the 7th, Hitler receives the news that his allies, the Japanese, have bombed Pearl Harbor. Adolf Hitler is faced by a new enemy, the United States.
No power can shake us. I am Führer of a Reich that will last for 1,000 years. Churchill and Roosevelt are sitting over there in their plutocratic little world. Behind the scenes, the Jews run their show. I have my people behind me.
With winter over, Hitler launches a new offensive. He is convinced that the Red Army is on the brink of destruction. Lieutenant Wilhelm Prüller.
At last, we're in our element again. It is we who are taking the initiative, Mr. Starling, and neither you nor your beasts can stop us. All about is an ear-splitting, gigantic racket. Shot after shot. A never-ending inferno. The land is bathed in a thick fog. We thank God that this war is not being fought on German soil.
When the German army reaches the river Volga, Hitler orders the capture of Stalingrad. His soldiers are now over 1,000 miles from home and dangerously exposed. When his generals suggest a retreat, Hitler confronts them.
Do you think that you can teach me what the man at the front is thinking? Where were you in the First World War? I demand from you the same toughness as from the frontline soldiers.
Hitler orders no retreat. Three months later, the Red Army surrounds and traps 250,000 German soldiers in Stalingrad.
Auf Posten in einsamer Nacht, da steht ein Soldat und hält Wacht, träumt von Hanne und dem Glück.
On the home front, the people of Germany are preparing for Christmas. Some of the families of soldiers trapped in Stalingrad have letters brought out by air. Private Werner Bunnemann.
My dear son, I hope that this is the last Christmas that you celebrate without me. The Russians have dealt us a nasty blow. It is now minus 30 degrees here. How nice it must be in warm rooms. Next year I will hopefully be back with you. Love from your father, Werner.
5 weeks later, 90,000 surviving German soldiers in Stalingrad surrender. 80,000 will die in Soviet captivity. Private Werner Bunnemann is one of them. With Hitler's war claiming more and more German lives, even old men and boys are now called up to fight for the fatherland. The diary of 15-year-old Wolfgang Findeisen.
We have replaced the men so that they can go to the front. Soldiers had manned these guns until now. It's very exciting. I like this much more than school. We are now on duty 24 hours a day. We are boys no longer, now we are men.
Hitler's homeland is under attack from the air. The Allies have begun firebombing Germany's cities. On July the 27th, 700 British bombers target Hamburg. The firestorm is filmed by Hamburg fireman Hans Brunswick.
The fire is like a thunderstorm without rain. The heat is unbearable. I see people lying in the street. I try to help them, but they are already dead. Hamburg's streets are littered with bodies. Some of them so burnt that they are only skeletons. Some are reduced to small heaps of ash.
In Hamburg alone, more than 40,000 people are killed. Hitler's advisors want him to tour the ruins and raise the morale of his people. Minister of Supplies, Albert Speer.
I tried a few times to persuade Hitler. Goebbels had tried to put over the same idea, but in vain, and referred enviously to the conduct of Churchill. When I think of the propaganda value I could make of such a visit, he'd say.
Hitler remains hidden away in his command bunker on the Eastern Front.
If the German people are no longer so strong and ready for sacrifice that they will not stake their own blood on their existence, they deserve to pass away and be annihilated by another stronger power. If that is the case, I would not shed a tear for them.
Hidden in the forests of eastern Germany is Hitler's secret headquarters. The Wolf's Lair is a huge complex of camouflage buildings and underground bunkers. From here, Hitler directs his war. His health is now failing. He has a heart condition and the early signs of Parkinson's disease. General Heinz Guderian.
Since I last saw Hitler, he has aged greatly. His back was bent, his hand trembled. His eyes lacked their former luster. He easily lost his temper, and was then unpredictable in what he said and did.
Hitler's ally, the fascist dictator of Romania, Marshal Antonescu, is here to discuss the worsening war situation. Hitler's adjutant, Nikolaus von Below.
I had the impression that Hitler now believed that a war against both the Russians and the Allies, on two fronts, could no longer be won.
Dawn, June the 6th, 1944. The Allies begin an invasion of Nazi-controlled France. D-Day. When Hitler is informed, he is delighted.
The news could not be any better. As long as they were in Britain, we could not get at them. Now we have them where we can destroy them.
But by the end of the first day, the Allies have overwhelmed the German soldiers and fought their way inland. Private Robert Vogt.
We only had infantry weapons. We didn't even have a bazooka. And we were even short of ammunition. The Americans were right. They dropped leaflets in German which read, "Attacked from the front, cut off from behind, written off by Hitler."
In Germany, the news is announced that a bomb has exploded in Hitler's Wolf's Lair headquarters. A group of army officers has been secretly plotting his downfall. Hitler has a lucky escape.
Now I have proof. The entire general staff is contaminated. Now I have the swine who have been sabotaging my work for years. Now I know why my great plans failed. It was treason.
Hitler orders the arrest of 5,000 people. 200 are executed. With his empire under attack from all sides, Hitler puts his faith in a new weapon. For more than 12 years, at a secret location in northern Germany, a team of Nazi scientists have been testing a long-range ballistic missile. They make a special color film of their first successful launch. Head of the research team, Major General Walter Dornberger, shows it to Hitler.
A strange fanatical light flared in Hitler's eyes. "What I want is annihilation," he raged. I realized that he expected this new weapon to produce a turning point in the war. Our missile has been renamed the V2. Vengeance Weapon number 2.
"1,300 V2 rockets are fired on London, killing almost 3,000 people. Not the annihilation Hitler has demanded. The Allies are closing in on the fatherland itself. Hitler is still telling his people that the war can be won. But in private, he is a changed man.
I know the war is lost. The enemy's superiority is too great. I have been betrayed. I ought to put a bullet in my head. But we will not capitulate. Ever. We may go down, but we will take the world with us.
April the 11th, 1945. The Allies arrive at Buchenwald. It is one of over 1,000 of Hitler's concentration camps. Udo Dietmar is one of the few survivors.
The conditions in Buchenwald had reached the height of horror. People were starving. A few of those who could still move broke down and died. There were mountains of corpses. The crematorium and the courtyard were overcrowded with skeletons. I can still hear my dead friends. If you should survive, don't forget to tell the world of our destiny. I will never forget.
The Americans round up people from the nearby town and force them to witness the horrors that have been committed in their name. 18-year-old Renata Simon.
I could hardly believe what I was seeing. They had piled up the corpses of people who had died. The smell was just too much. I couldn't take it anymore. But the GI shouted at me, "You Hitler, Fräulein! Here, look, look!"
The Nazis have murdered 6 million Jews. January 1945. The Red Army has reached the Oder River, just 50 miles from Berlin. From his bunker beneath the center of the city, Hitler orders every able-bodied male to defend Berlin.
Every soldier must fulfill his duty. Whoever does not is a traitor. Anyone who gives you an order to retreat must be arrested and executed immediately.
Outnumbered more than 5 to 1, the German cause is hopeless. On April the 21st, the Russians enter Berlin. With more than 20 million Soviets already killed in the war, the Red Army allows its soldiers to celebrate. 24-year-old Hildegard Christoph.
The Russians came. We weren't allowed to lock our doors. Holding machine guns, they herded us into an empty house. Other young women had also been dragged in. The beasts pounced on us, again and again, the entire night. A whole mob of them. At dawn, they disappeared. We crept back to our family. Many committed suicide.
As many as 2 million German women are raped. In the ruins of the Nazi chancellery, Hitler's underground bunker is discovered. It is deserted. After finally marrying his mistress, Eva Braun, Adolf Hitler has committed suicide.
In order to escape the disgrace of surrender, my wife and I choose death. It is our wish to be burned immediately.
All that is found are a few charred bones. Hitler's war is finally over. "17-year-old schoolgirl Edelgard Seidel.
We believed in victory. And now, this is the end. Hitler is responsible for destroying our nation. We will always have to live under this shame."
Across Europe, 50 million people are dead. Before killing himself, Hitler wrote this last testament.
It is untrue that I, or anyone else in Germany, wanted war. It was provoked solely by the Jews. I die with a joyful heart, in the knowledge of our infinite achievements, and of a contribution unique in the history that bears my name.